What's going on, guys? It's Jimmy here. Welcome to our daily show where we discuss everything going on here in our country that you need to know about here on a daily basis. Multiple different things going on here as we go into the election here. And this is shaping up to be one of the largest elections ever, especially for a midterm election, with a lot of things on people's mind: the economy, abortion rights, gun control rights, gun safety rights, whether no matter what side of the aisle you're on, for both of these or all three of these topics. And we're seeing more and more people register to vote because of these heated debates. And we're seeing a lot of this in the news here, like this, that is actually affecting people's lives. For example, in Arizona, a 14-year-old girl was denied and is denied her autoimmune medication due to Arizona's near total abortion ban. And this isn't, she's not trying to get an abortion, yet she can't get her autoimmune medication. There's so many unintended consequences that are happening to thousands and thousands of people across the country. You can see here, after the Supreme Court overturned Roe v. Wade, a 14-year-old child with rheumatoid arthritis was initially denied medication essential to her quality of life because she was of, quote, childbearing age at 14 and could become pregnant. Her mother and doctor told Today. The tech went back and looked at went back to talk to the pharmacist. I heard the pharmacist say, well, she's 14 years old, adding that because the daughter was considered childbearing age. The tech asked the pharmacist if she had looked at Emma's history and said, well, she's been on this medication for years. And remember that there's a lot of miscarriages as well that can't get their prescriptions, their drugs to in these states that have now outlawed it because they're just not allowed to get them, and which could pose danger to the mothers and could even cause death because the miscarriage drugs are not allowed to be prescribed. So there's really a lot of danger here, and you guys can let me know your thoughts here. Um, More and more people are showing up to vote. No matter what side of the aisle you're on, whether you're pro-life or pro-choice. And remember that a lot of these states have some of these states actually have made it illegal for abortions, even if it's rape or incest, or for extenuating medical circumstances where the mother could die. It depends on the state, each state. And some of these states have where it needs to be on a medical list, but the list has to be your specific circumstances. We go back to the and this is where thousands and thousands and thousands of people are going to be affected, because you may have a medical condition that puts you or the mother at risk, but your specific circumstance might not be on the risk. We go back to the case that went nationwide, where the mother had a baby inside of her that wasn't viable, wasn't going to live. The baby was well, not born, but was inside without a skull, had no chance of living, and yet they wouldn't help her. They said, sorry, there's nothing we can do. The new law that was passed prevents us from doing anything. You're going to have to keep it inside, and you could die. The baby, it could go septic, and it wasn't viable. So these are kind of some of the issues also going into election time, along with the economy being number one. We have 40-year high inflation right now. We just got announced the largest Social Security cost of living adjustment as well. And you know what? Take a listen to this. I just seen this. It's from Independent Senator Bernie Sanders. He talks about several of these issues and saying more needs to be done, actually. Take a listen.
Good to be with you.
Look, I want to focus on this was an op-ed you wrote about a week or so ago, and you've said this in other programs. So walk me through what you'd be doing right now. If you're in one of these battleground races, you've said abortion rights should be front and center. How would you be talking about the economic issues?
Well, number one, what the Supreme Court did was totally outrageous. It is women who should control their own bodies, not the government. Number two, too many people have fought and died to defend American democracy. We cannot let right-wing extremists undermine what is so important to this country, and that is the right of all people to participate in the political process. Thirdly, and terribly important, we live in a moment, Chuck, in which we see an economy where the people on top are doing phenomenally well while working people are struggling. You got more income and wealth inequality today than any time in the history of the United States. 3 people owning more wealth than the bottom half of the people in our society. That is insane. So what I think is Democrats should talk about the economy. I think they should contrast their views with the Republican positions. I believe, and most Democrats believe, that at a time when half our people live in paycheck to paycheck, we should raise the minimum wage to a living wage. No Republicans support that. I think we should make it easier for workers to join unions. Republicans don't support that. I believe that when you have billionaires not paying a nickel in some cases in federal income taxes, yeah, we should demand that the rich and large corporations start paying their fair share. Now, what Republicans are saying, Chuck, which is quite amazing to me, is that in the midst of these difficult economic times for seniors and for other people, you know what they say? We got to cut Social Security. We got to cut Medicare. We got to cut Medicaid. I think that that is grotesque, and I think Democrats have got to hold them accountable for those reactionary positions.
Senator, do you accept the criticism that the American Rescue Plan passed in early 2021 contributed to the current inflation issue we're dealing with now?
No, I don't. Inflation right now, as I'm sure you know, Chuck, is an international problem. In Germany, it is 10%. UK, it is 10%. Canada, it is 7%. Inflation globally is caused by the pandemic and the break in supply chain. It is caused by, in my view, the war in Ukraine, obviously, and it is also caused by incredible corporate greed. And I hope everybody understands that when you go to the gas tank, you fill up your car today, the oil companies are making huge profits. Yeah. The food companies are making huge profits. Prescription drug, high pharmaceutical industry making huge profits. We got to deal with that issue.
Why do you think
Republicans won't? By the way,
right. We have a majority of economists now that believe a recession in the next 12 months is likely. First of all, do you think the Federal Reserve is currently helping or hurting the situation?
I think they're hurting the situation. I think it is wrong to be saying that the way we're going to deal with inflation is by lowering wages and increasing unemployment. That is not what we should be doing. So this inflation thing is a real issue. It is a global issue. But at a time when working families are struggling and the people on top are doing phenomenally well, I don't think you go after working people.
So you wouldn't be raising interest rates anymore at this point, that the damage has already been done in your view?
Yes.
Yeah, so let me know your thoughts there. And the Federal Reserve, is set to hike interest rates here yet again in November. And it's probably going to be another 3/4 of an interest rate, 0.75%, which is the largest interest rate hikes we've ever seen. I don't think we've ever seen a full 1% in one shot. Let me know if you've seen that. My 2 cats came running in here, chasing each other and running out. Can't make this stuff up. But yeah, we were. Where was I? We've never seen a full 1% interest rate hike in one shot. So when we see these 0.75% interest rate hike in one shot, that's a lot. And we've seen them now multiple times in a row, and we're probably going to see it again. And A lot of people are like, "Oh, yeah, well, this doesn't affect me." If you have credit card interest or credit card debt, this is affecting you because you're paying more money on your debt. So this is making credit card interest go higher. Yeah, so a lot of people don't realize that. Um, Anything you pay, so the things that would be affected here, credit card debt, number one is the big one. New home purchases, or if you have a variable rate mortgage, if you're not locked into a mortgage, that will be affected whenever it goes to relock, or if you go to buy a new home. This is also really causing a uh, what the Fed said, a great reset in the housing market because it is kind of going through that. Housing prices are falling. It did kind of need that, to be honest, because houses were going for way over asking price. It was an overinflated economy in a lot of different areas, which was kind of unnatural, to be honest. Homes that were 300,000 were selling for over asking, just for, picking up a price out of thin air. You'd get 20 buyers all kind of bidding on day one, and it would sell for 350. Is not really a normal situation. Or, if you take a $500,000 price, it again depends on where you live, the cost of a home. Over asking price, you'd get multiple bidders bidding over asking price, and you'd have to bid over asking. It's not a natural scenario. Okay. Unnatural, kind of in the Halloween spirit here. Um, it really wasn't good. But now, so now we're kind of going back to normal where you could maybe negotiate a little bit on the price, those kind of things. But now you're going to have to pay more for interest, at least for the time being. Okay. So when interest rates come back down, whenever that will be, well, that'll probably be, in a couple years at this point. It's not going to be next year for sure. But the government's not going to want to keep interest rates high forever because the government's paying interest on this as well. You think about all the government debt. Um, Government's paying interest on this as well. So, government bonds, government debt, the government pays more interest than anybody, believe it or not. So the government will not want to keep interest rates high forever. So if you're paying interest, the government's paying more interest than everybody. So, but it's at this point, it's going to be probably at least 2 years until interest rates can even start to come back down. So yeah, credit cards, um, housing, mortgage rates, cars, mortgage or cards interest rates. So if you go to buy a new car, you go to lease a new car. If you go to buy a used car, those interest rates are going to be much much higher than they were six months ago as well. But car companies are now struggling. They were going from basically having everything sold on the lot, being able to sell them for over asking price again. Same type of situation, the supply chain constraint, the chip shortages, to now they're sitting on lots. So new cars, even, you just take like a regular Honda, a regular Chevy, a regular Ford, they were selling for over asking price. They were calling it market adjustments, basically taking advantage of consumers. You take a $30,000 new car, whatever type of car you were getting, we'll just take that for a round number. They were selling them for 35 or even 40 in some cases. Just a regular old Honda Accord or, Chevy, whatever, and Ford F-150s and stuff, even going for more, so they were just basically taking advantage of people, okay, because they were selling as soon as they were coming out. The whole pandemic, supply chain issues, and chip shortages, and all this stuff kind of created this issue. Okay, or at least they told us it did, right? But regardless, is they were selling as soon as they hit the lots. People were kind of desperate to get them, and they were selling for over asking. Used ones that were, like a year, 2 years slightly used, were actually selling for MSRP, manufacturing suggested retail price. So that's, again, shows you an overinflated economy. Now, the rising of interest rates by the Fed has actually kind of brought these back down to normal. So now they're not selling for those overinflated prices, but you're paying more for interest. So that's, again, it's kind of a double-edged sword. Now, hopefully, when interest rates go back down, everything will maybe stay back to normal. But remember, it's not just the U.S. doing this interest rate hikes. These are going on all around the world. I mean, Europe, Canada, pretty much everywhere is doing the same thing. In fact, the U.S. was one of the last countries to do this. We were criticized actually for not doing this sooner to fight inflation. And not remember remember that the Fed is actually a separate entity than the U.S. government. Okay, so technically, the Fed is not controlled by Biden or the White House. In fact, the head of the Fed, Jerome Powell, actually was appointed by um, Donald Trump, and he's a Republican. Okay, I don't know if that matters or anything, but technically they're a separate entity, the Fed. Okay, so Biden can't control him or anything. In fact, Biden's even said that they're separate entities, probably because Biden wants to separate himself a little bit from them. But yeah, the Fed kind of makes their own decision. They have a board, they have a panel that votes on these decisions. It's not really just one guy. They have you know a whole board of directors that votes on these things. So yeah, they're not like doing Biden's bidding or Trump's bidding when Trump was there either. They're kind of doing what they think is the best for the country, and they think right now it's raising interest rates to bring down inflation, and we are seeing inflation come down in areas like car prices, home prices, and things like lumber prices, and different areas like this. Lumber prices have completely plummeted because of home building, and multiple different areas like this in the country have gone down because of interest rate hikes. So, and again, it's not just the U.S. that has done this. We've basically seen almost every country in the world that actually does these kind of things, that follows this kind of stuff, do this. Remember that Russia actually, back at the beginning of the war, when their stock market started to collapse, they raised their interest rates from about 8%. Their interest rates started at 8%, believe it or not. You think about our home mortgage rates right now are at 6 or 7%. So their interest rates started at 8%. They raised it to 20% in one shot. Yeah, so if you think our interest rates are bad, imagine what it would be like if you were over there. But they did that in one shot to prevent their currency, the ruble, from collapsing. And yeah, so I digress. But you can let me know your thoughts here in the comments. This is just kind of a little bit of what's going on, and we're going to see another interest rate hike next month, and we're going to probably see more in 2023, almost certainly, almost certainly. So yeah, it's gonna be a rough haul, um, for at least interest rate hike and inflation. We have not seen inflation go down, to be honest. It I gotta kind of take that back because I know a minute ago I said the interest rate that inflation is coming down. It's a tough situation here because inflation is coming down in some areas, like housing prices, car prices, lumber prices. Okay. So we've seen prices come down there. But on the other hand, you're paying more for interest there. But on the other hand, food prices going up, gas prices going back up. So we're seeing it, and the overall inflation number is still high. Core inflation still at 8.2% was the last reading. The Social Security raise that just came out was at 8.7%, the CPIW. So overall inflation still kind of sticking at the really pretty much about the same. Okay. Remember, there's an inflation reading for pretty much everything in the economy: housing, cars, gas, electricity has really gone up a lot. And if you heat your home with any type of gas, it's already doubled or tripled in the last like 12 months or so. So yeah, it's just an overall pretty sucky atmosphere right now economically, and this is one of the major things on people's mind going into the midterm elections. So let me know your thoughts here in the comments, and I'll keep you up to date here with everything going on here in our country on a daily basis. So make sure you subscribe down below to our YouTube channel. It's completely free to do so. New videos come out here every day at 10 a.m., 3 p.m., and 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. You can click here to watch my newest video next. And you can click here to see a new presidential executive order that was just signed that is going to affect millions of Americans with money in their pocket, actually, for a lot. So click on one of those videos next. Thanks for watching, guys, and I'll see you in the next video.